Okay, so it's with great pleasure to be able to introduce our next keynote speaker. His name is Jack DeBoer. He's with Consolidated Holdings Incorporated. Jack DeBoer's career started in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where he began selling real estate during the summers while in high school. After graduating from Michigan State University with a degree in business in 1952 and following 2 years as a military police officer during the Korean War, he teamed up with his father to build homes in southern Michigan. By 1966, he was building apartments. By 1973, his company had built more than 16,000 apartments across 30 cities in 25 states. So impressive was this accomplishment that the National Real Estate Investor magazine recognized DeBoer as the second largest multifamily developer in the United States. But it is the concept of the extended stay hotel and the creation of 3 iconic hotel brands that is DeBoer's biggest contribution to the hospitality industry, as he is recognized as the pioneer of the extended stay and all-suite hotel concepts. He designed and built the first Residence Inn, an all-suite hotel in downtown Wichita, Kansas in 1975, and built or franchised 100 more properties before selling it to the Marriott Corporation in 1987. In 1988, he co-founded Summerfield Hotel Corporation, a second-generation upscale, all-suite hotel chain, which he sold to Hyatt. In 1995, he founded the Candlewood Hotel Company. This was also purchased by the Intercontinental Hotels Group in December of 2003. In June of 2002, DeBoer created Value Place, a short-term apartment concept that continues to expand with more than 177 locations. He also developed Grand Champions Club, a world-class tennis facility and health club in Aspen, Colorado, where Maroon Creek Golf Course and residential lots were later added. Today, DeBoer serves as 6 corporations chairman on the board. He also serves as chairman of Consolidated Holdings Incorporated, which he founded in 1989. In addition to his many successful business ventures, DeBoer's contributions outside of his business interests have been recognized with numerous awards, including the Wichita Area Chamber of Commerce highest honor, the Uncommon Citizen Award, and that was in 1992. Induction into the Wichita Business Hall of Fame in 1997, UCLA's Hotel Industry Lifetime Achievement Award in 2001, and Michigan State University's Distinguished Alumni Award in 2001, just to name a few. Jack DeBoer is an active pilot and currently holds the 3-kilometer world speed record for jet aircraft under 18,000 pounds. In 1988, DeBoer and his wife Marilyn completed a 4-month-long trip around the world as a result of his experiences he authored, which is the book titled Risk Only Money to Benefit the World Vision, Burma. Jack flew here today. He made it. He's going to tear up the stage. Let's put our hands together. Take the left, take the right, repeatedly, as hard as you can, and welcome Jack DeBoer.
Thank you. Howdy. Entrepreneur. ENTRAPINYOUR. Everybody awake? This is really exciting. There's no more energy in the collegiate system, with the possible exception of a Michigan State Notre Dame football game, that has the energy that you do. By a show of hands, how many of you are or want to be in business for yourself? I love it. Why? You want to be in business because you don't want a boss? Maybe you want to be in business because you want status, your name on the building. Maybe it's just challenge. You know, one of the big advantages of being in business is you get to keep score. It's called the operating statement. You see it every month. Maybe you just want your own jet. I flew out here this morning in my own jet, and I've never had a job. That's true. I've never worked for anybody. Well, not quite. During the Korean War, I was a military police company commander, but even then I thought that Eisenhower and I were in charge of the whole world, so I didn't count that as being. Maybe you're just earning love. Maybe there's somebody out there that you know, that maybe your parents, maybe whoever, you're just earning love. You know that when you own the whole world, they'll say, wow, I love you. Well, those are all swell, but there's only one reason to be in business. And if you don't hear anything else I say today, there is only one reason. Now, when I say this, I often lose the academicians when I talk to colleges, or I lose people, but there's only one reason, and that reason is to be in business for the money. Now, I know some people, so when I say that, think, well, you know, he's got his, and he's just another one. He's taken from those who don't, and that's the way business is. Well, guys, don't lose track of the fact that money is what makes the business world go around. Money we're going to talk about is the only thing you have in your business life that you can have, lose, and get back without losing the rest of you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. The book says, risk only money. But what is an entrepreneur? I happen to believe that an entrepreneur is a person who pursues opportunity beyond his or her resources. An entrepreneur will consistently miscalculate the risk. An entrepreneur will work 16 hours a day for his or herself to avoid working 8 hours for somebody else. Well, wait a minute. What is success? Success is simply the ability to stay in business long enough to get lucky. I'm a believer that the difference between you guys are guaranteed in this wonderful nation of ours a good living, a good life, if you play by the rules. But to get a whole lot of money, I think is luck. I mean, come on, I graduated from Michigan State with a C+ average. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I didn't work any harder than any of the rest of you work. But I've got 4 successful companies now. I never had a job. I fly my own jet. I mean, come on. Don't tell me it's not luck. But what are the traits you need to be an entrepreneur, and how do you get lucky? Well, maybe you get lucky because the harder you work, the luckier you get. The better education you have, the better ability you have, the harder you work, more doors were open, and you pick the right doors, and you get lucky. People say, no. It isn't luck. Of course it's luck. If you're in the oil business and you're the smartest geologist out there, and you find oil, and you know how to produce it for $35 a barrel, and you are really a swimmer, as long as the price of oil is $85 or $100. But if the price of oil is $25, you're not so smart, are you? And do you have anything to do with the price of oil? No. You got to be able to communicate, motivate, organize, accept responsibility, be adaptable, make decisions, have drive, energy, be healthy, good human relations, initiative, interest in people, judgment, be open-minded, planning ability, persistence, resourcefulness, self-confidence, self-starter, willing to listen and take chances. Okay. This is the part I don't like very well, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm not going to bore you with it, because I hope that someday you'll either online or Amazon or somewhere, you'll buy and read this book. This book was written strictly to ease your burden, because I've been there. I tried it all. I've started 25 or 30 companies in my life. Huh? Most of them failed. You know what that means? Have I ever been bankrupt? No. Have I ever been sued? No. I'm very proud of that. But 25 or 30 companies, and most of them failed? Why did they fail? Because they didn't make money. Yeah, you heard it. I built 16,000 garden apartments. I had 2,500 employees. I was the second largest apartment builder. And boy, I was on an ego trip. Hell, I thought I could walk across water, and I was about halfway across when I fell in. What did it take? 100%, 100%. I had a Cessna 310 in those days, and I was the only employee, and I was building garden apartments in Peoria, Illinois, and Wichita, Kansas, and I had no employees, and I was the contractor as well as the developer. And I was getting ready to open, and I didn't know anything about opening apartments. And I would fly at night, IFR with a light, writing checks, keeping the books, no family. Well, I had a family. I had a couple of kids, I think. No personal life. I had a yellow car. And I'd park that car near the road outside my office. I got to work earlier than anybody else. I stayed later than anybody else. I would park my car out there, and I knew that when people drove by and saw my yellow car, they would say, yeah, that's Jack DeBoer's car. You know, he's the hardest working guy I know, because I know that someday, when I owned it all, they'd say, well, he worked really hard. Hell, I thought about buying another yellow car and leaving it out there. In 1970, I owned 95% of the company, and the Singer Correction and the Ford Foundation owned the other 5%. That was pretty hot stuff. But I hated to go to these national meetings because I knew people were saying, there's Jack DeBoer. He's the second largest apartment builder. So I began making decisions for all the wrong reasons. In 1970, late, the Singer Company offered me $100 million for the company. Now, in 1970, $100 million was a lot of money. In 1971, I was broke. You guys and gals know what broke is? We're going to have an accounting class now. I'm going to explain it to you. Over here on this side, I want you to write down all the stuff you got. And over on that side, I want you to write down all the stuff you owe. And then I want you to write, now subtract this side from that side. And if you've got a positive number, you're not broke. Wrong. That's the morning class. Now we're going to talk about the afternoon class. Over on this side, I want you to write down current assets. And over on this side, I want you to write down current liabilities. Now I want you to make the subtraction, I was broke. My phone rang one day and somebody said, is this Jack DeBoer? And oh, how I hated that name. It was on everything. Jack P. DeBoer Associates. Everything had a big J on it with a crown. We had 12 different divisions. DeBoer this, DeBoer that. Then the caller said, is this Jack DeBoer? And I said, yeah. He said, if you don't pay me by Friday, I'm going to kill you. Now, if you guys and gals think that business is a joke or just fun, or if you're in business for the wrong reasons, listen carefully to me. You know what went through my mind? I thought, he has a right. He has a right to kill me because I've been on this enormous ego trip, and now I can't pay my bills. And I've got creditors all over the country with hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. And these people have families, and they have obligations, and car payments, and church pledges, and all these other things. And because you, Jack DeBoer, are on an ego trip, they can't function. And why are you on an ego trip? Because you were in business for the wrong reasons. I went to bed. I covered my head with a blanket for 2 days. Well, let me tell you how the book starts. This is the preface. For 2 days, I lay there in the darkness, shades drawn, the covers pulled over my head. I was paralyzed with fear, self-loathing, shame, and the realization that I didn't know what to do next. I had hundreds of creditors I couldn't pay, affecting the lives of thousands of people. And it goes on to talk about the telephone call. One of my friends sat outside my office with a gun for 6 weeks. I had people who I didn't know until later who sat at the local courthouse because worrying about 3 creditors putting me into bankruptcy, knowing full well that I couldn't stand that with my ego and I would probably fly my airplane into a mountain. But how did I get out of bed? Well, I began to think about the assets that I had. So what were they? They weren't money. I still had my wife and my family. Today we've been married 59 years. I still had my health. I still had old friends who had stuck with me even though they thought of my out-of-control ego was stupid. I hadn't done anything illegal. I still had plenty of energy. I had always treated people with respect. I'd been truthful along the way, and now, finally, with these assets, I could get out of bed. The business is pretty serious, guys and gals. Once I did, and I was nearly 50 years old. I got it together, I got rid of my ego, I was in business for the right reasons, and with the grace of God and good luck, I became financially pretty successful for a Dutch kid from Kalamazoo. Well, that's a part of the book that you'll read that talks about success and some of the things that happened. And then later, speech is over. And then later, we're going to talk about making the transition from success to significance. There is more to life than that. Well, okay, I got it together, and then I felt it was important to tell young people like you some of the lessons that I learned the hard way that you might be able to listen and not go through it. At the end of one of the talks, and I've given hundreds of talks to universities and businesses around this country because I really feel an obligation. A young woman stood up and said, "Mr. DeBoer, if you had it to do over again, what would you do different?" And like that, I had the answer. I would listen. Well, what did I learn? The world's going to help you up and it's going to help you down. When you're on a roll, you're going to think you're swell. And your business is doing well and you think people are really bowing to you, but just remember, and everybody's going to be saying, "How can I help?" But when you fail, you will stand alone. There's a price for your name on the door. It doesn't make any money. Don't put your name on your business unless your name happens to be contractor or electrician or something that people would understand. Big companies don't mean big profits. Big ego maybe, but not big profits. And everything is relative in life. My problems, we make payrolls in these companies now, millions of dollars every 2 weeks. I worry about that. I really do. Not as much as I used to, but I worry about it. You got a car payment coming up? You worry about that. You and I are at the same level of worry. Kid writes his dad a letter from college. You know, everything is relative. And he says, "Dear Dad, I know you don't hear from me except when I need money, but I was smoking marijuana in my room the other day, and I set fire to my room and destroyed it and 5 more down the hall, and they've kicked me out of the dorm. And you remember Judy, the girl you didn't like. Well, it's okay. We found a little place. We've moved in together, and she's pregnant. And Dad, none of the above is true, but I want you to keep it in perspective that I got a D on my physics test. Everything is relative. Ask for help. Don't reinvent the wheel. You're not that smart, and besides, everything has been invented. Improved upon, yes, but invented, not really. Make a plan, decide what's important, do it. I mean, come on, you hear that all the time. You've heard it in college, and you're going to hear it all your life, and it is important. But sometimes plans go awry. The guy's driving down the street about 60 miles an hour, happened to look out, and there was a chicken running alongside of his car, and he thought, my goodness, that chicken is really going. He stepped it up to 70. Chicken was still there, and he looked, and the chicken had 3 legs. He thought, that's amazing. Came to a fork in the road like this. He went one way, the chicken went the other way, stopped the car, he turned around, he said, I got to find out about that chicken. And he drove up there, and there was a farmer out in the field, kind of pushing a rake in the dirt. Hey, he said, did you see a chicken come running up this road? And the farmer said, yeah. So we got a lot of chickens. No. He said, this chicken had 3 legs. So we got a lot of 3-legged chickens here. And he looked, and sure enough, he said, well, tell me about it. Well, he said, I went to Bradley, and I was in a school, and they told me about making a plan. Study your market, figure out how to fill it, and go at it. And I decided that families are getting smaller, and we determined scientifically that more people like dark meat than white meat, and I thought that we would design a chicken that we could serve families of 3, and they could all have the dark meat. I said, that's just amazing. He said, how do they taste? And the farmer said, well, we don't know. We never caught one. I had a sign in my office for years that said, if it isn't fun, don't do it. It's still there. It says, if it isn't profitable, don't do it. Tonight when you go home, I want you to take 2 yellow pads. And on top of one, I want you to write deal makers and doers, and on the other one, flakes. Then I want you to put the names of everybody you know that you do business with, your social life, all of them. Put them on the proper page. I'll promise you a couple things. 1, you won't have any trouble deciding who goes on which page. 2, you'll never move anybody from one page to the other. Why then do we do business with flakes? Well, they're more fun. But you're going to be known by the people with whom you associate. So don't monkey with flakes. Get yourself involved with people who will challenge you, who will help you grow. And when the chips are down, they're the people who will be able to help you. Truth. Most all business is truthful. Now, you don't think that if you watch TV all the time, because all the programs portray business people as doing either immoral or illegal things. Well, guys and gals, it ain't that way. Sure, we know about the Enrons. We know about Global Crossing. We know about the guys. You know how many public companies there are in the United States of America? Public companies? 11,000. 11,000 public companies who do it right, who tell the truth, who take care of their employees. They don't show up on the front page of the paper because that's not news. But if you want to play in this game called business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, then keep your brain clear of the energy it requires if you're a liar. You want to play in this arena, tell the truth, and don't be afraid to be basic. You're not going to impress anybody with how smart you are. You'll never be known by the things you're going to do. You're going to be known by the things you've done. And be basic. And life ain't easy. Direction beats directive. Guidelines beat policies. Everybody goes through life with monkeys. Monkeys ride on your head, on your belt, in your pockets. Monkeys go through Twitter and emails and all this stuff. The name of the game is, you really only ought to have the number of monkeys you can feed. When you're running a meeting, sit down with the team and look about the room, and you will see monkeys everywhere. They are running on the floor, they are sitting on the draperies, they are on people's heads, they're chasing across the table. Your goal, when the meeting is concluded, is to calmly say to yourself before you say it's over, have I found a place for all these monkeys? Keep it calm and keep it organized. I used to go down the hallway and somebody would say, Jack, I got to talk to you about that deal we're doing in Detroit. And I would say, well, I'm going to a meeting right now, but that is important. I'll call you. Bang, his monkey jumps on me. I trained myself to say, Bill, that's important. Call me. Keep your own damn monkey. Hiring and firing. You're going to get the joy, if you're in business, of hiring and firing. Hiring is extraordinarily difficult, extraordinarily easy. Firing is extraordinarily difficult. Hiring is like sex. Over on this side, you've got the person who needs a job. They're in their best bib and tucker. They've given you mostly truth in the resume that they gave you, and they need a job. And they're behaving. And you need somebody to help this cause. You've got to hire them, and so you need somebody. So you're looking for all the good stuff. The chemistry is really like this in a hiring situation. And I say to you, if you'll spend 80% of your time hiring, you'll only have to spend 20% of your time training and managing. And in the hiring process, I say to you, practice safe hiring. Because firing is very, very difficult. You're the one that told them how great it was going to be. You're the one that told them, go ahead and move your family. You're the one that told them they were going to make their bonus. You're the one that told them it was going to be great. And they didn't do it. So how do you get ready for firing? Keep that employee informed of what you expect on a regular basis. It can't come as a surprise. And finally the time comes, you say, look. And you know what? Whenever that time comes, and it's so painful, it will come as no surprise to anyone this person works with, and hopefully as no surprise to that employee. And beware of the man who worries about being cheated. That's the person who will probably cheat you. You know, most people are honest. Don't spend a lot of your energy keeping other people honest. You're going to get cheated once in a while. It's okay. They go to hell, you don't. When you stop making mistakes, like you said, you're in deep trouble. If you have power, you don't have to tell anybody about it. They know you've got power, and life isn't fair, so get used to it. Situation ethics. You guys live in a gray world, and that's a real problem. I was brought up in a black and white world. It was right or it was wrong. Did we always do it was right? No. But we knew. Today I look at my grandkids, all of whom are in college, and I think, this is really tough because the world is gray. So what does that mean? That means reduce these things to the simplest common denominator, make them black and white, and make a decision based on that, whether it has to do with the way you lead your life or whatever. And the entrepreneurial manager does not exist. There are no entrepreneurial managers. There are no managers who are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are born. They're not made. The entrepreneurial schools out there are not making an entrepreneur out of you. They are giving you the tools to be a better entrepreneur. If you put a team together and you put two entrepreneurs together, what happens? They dream and they plan and they flit and they do all this kind of stuff and they run back and forth until everything blows up. You put two managers together, they get their green eye shades out and they prove conclusively that it cannot be done. So what do? You got to mix them. You got to mix them. And when things go wrong, accept the blame. It's okay. Everybody screws up. I screwed up. Well, and risk only money. And you can be the best at a lot of things, but you can never, ever be the richest, so don't set it as a goal. And personal relationships are first. Whenever I have the opportunity to talk to company people, and I do that fairly often because I'm in charge of the culture now, I got people running the businesses, I tell them, treat other people the way you would like to be treated. And it works great. And it's no sin to fail. Everybody does at some degree. The sin, of course, is to lie there. Pick yourself up and start all over again. I love Winston Churchill. If you want to have fun reading, read about Winston Churchill. He was a drunk. He was a slob. He was smart. He was overweight. He was clumsy. He was brilliant. The story is that he was at a big party function in London with Lady Astor, and Lady Astor looked at him and said, "Sir Winston, you are drunk." And he said, "Lady Astor, you are ugly. And tomorrow I shall be sober and you shall still be ugly." Now there's really a lesson in that little, Winston Churchill was a great orator. And I memorized a speech that he gave to a group like this because I was so incredibly impressed with it. I memorized it. Sir Winston walked out like this and looked at the group. Never give up. It's okay to make mistakes. Stop and smell the roses. Don't use your brain all the time. Be aware of the things around you. Know how many ducks are on your pond. Do you know the condition of the trees around this conference center? Have you looked at which trees are losing their leaves and those that aren't? You must, because you need to cleanse your brain for that. Life is always a series of choices. That's the penalty you pay for being free. So be aware of your choices. When you start making the wrong choices early, then choices start being taken away from you. So little choices build until finally you lose it. And today, I've heard this before, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Yeah, it is. It is. And risk only money. Don't risk your health because you may not get it back. Don't risk your reputation because you may not get it back. Don't risk your friendships because they will soon be lost. Risk only money. In the morning when you get up, I want you to ask yourself a question. Do I like me? And if you can answer that to the affirmative, you're off to a good day. You know, it's interesting. Walmart is a great company. Y'all heard of Walmart? Anybody in the room hasn't heard of Walmart? I don't think so. It's the largest company in the history of the world. 1.6 million employees. And you Americans are spending $36 million a day. Correction, you're spending $36 million an hour at Walmart. And it works out, they're making $20,928 every minute. They have 1.6 million employees. They're the largest company in the history of the world. They have 3,900 stores. They built 1,000 supercenters in the last 5 years with over 350 SKUs in the market. Wow. Well, the Postal Service has been around for 234 years, and it's broke. Social Security's been around 74 years, it's broke. Fannie Mae's been around 71 years, they're broke. The war on poverty started in 1964. They spend $1 trillion a year, and it doesn't work. Medicare and Medicaid were established in 1965. They've had 44 years, they're broke. Freddie Mac has been around 39 years. It's broke. The Department of Energy was established in 1977. They now have 16,000 employees. They spend $24 billion a year, and we import more oil now than we did. Hell, we ought to let Walmart run the company out of the country. I think that would be a good idea. Well, I have a couple more minutes. Like they say, I came here to talk and you came here to listen, and if you quit before I do, just let me know. But when I sold the Residence Inn in 1987, I went home to my wife and I said, I quit, because I quit. Folded up my tent and left, went home. My wife looked at me at about 11:45 and I said, I quit. I don't have a job. She said, I married you for better or for worse, but not for lunch, but we got beyond that. And I said, look, we've got an airplane and a few bucks. What do you want to do? Let's go explore the world. So we spent a year. We made a list of all the places we wanted to go. We spent a year. We spent a year planning. The State Department and the Reagan office, the White House, and all the embassies have been notified these nitwits from Kansas are coming, and please invite them to all this. An incredible experience. But let me tell you something. We wanted to study the history of man for 7,000 years. We brought our own guides because I hate taking tours with local guides. They don't speak clear English. They tell me a lot of crap that I don't want to know anyway. So we brought our own guides, and it was fantastic. We were in 39 countries where 3 billion people live. And from the time I turned to the co-pilot in Wichita, Kansas and said, gear up, from that moment on, we were always in the minority. We're in the minority because we're white. We're in the minority because we're Christians, and we're in the minority because we're free. Wow. Well, there's a bunch of stuff about that in the book, and that's kind of a fun read. But we got to Burma. We went to Burma because nobody could go there. It was a closed country, and that was a challenge to me, and I wanted to see it. So I worked on that for a little while, and we figured out, and we went to Burma, and we landed there in the rain. And I had a video camera, and I was going to show my friends I'd been to Burma. And they said, you can't bring the camera in the country. And so I took it back. They said, we'll keep it here till you leave. And I said, no, I'll put it on the airplane. So I gave it to one of the crewmen, and I said, look, bring this in the country because they don't. I got a bunch of pictures, and I had this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. It's in the book. Well, we were left in 24 hours. We were in Burma. And the riots began. 11 people were killed around the hotel, and our airplane was at the airport next to a Russian airliner, and it was pouring down rain, and people were trying to get out of the country. And it was a pretty tense time. And while we were there, we had met a couple of young men who were our security people, the guys who followed us for the government and kept us from doing anything bad. And you know what they told us? They said that their parents apologized to them all the time for what they had allowed to happen to the country. Because when the British were running it before the Second World War, Burma was the breadbasket of Asia. They had lots of rice and they exported it, and they had infrastructure and everything else, and the military took it over when Aung San Suu Kyi's father was assassinated, and they closed the country down until about 8 months ago. When you see what's going on in Burma, different story. Anyway, we felt that the world didn't have hope. And we'd gotten lucky. We now had resources. We had money to make a difference. So that's the third part of the book, the transition from success to significance. So we went with World Vision to Burma. There were no non-government organizations there. There were no free world embassies there. 47 million people, 50% of the deaths were children under 5, and they're dying of malaria and dysentery. It took us a year to negotiate with the Burmese government. We started with 5 doctors and 4 townships to prove to the government that we weren't there to overthrow the government. We weren't there to make Christians out of Buddhists. We were only there to do sewer and to do water and fly-proof latrines, and we put some health clinics in place. We wanted to make a difference one child at a time. Okay, great. We've been there 22 years. Over this 22 years, they've grown from 47 million to 54 million. We've grown from 5 employees to 850 employees. We have 47,000 sponsored children in Burma now. We've made 33,000 MED loans. Well, big deal. I'm rather embarrassed about that. The message I want to send to you is, you know who my hero is? My hero is not some guy who got lucky, that God said, okay, you're going to be successful in business, you're going to surround yourself with the right people, and I'm going to take care of you and see that you make a bunch of money and give it away, so what? It didn't change my lifestyle. You know who my hero is? My hero is the family that tithes to their church. My hero is the family that has a sponsor child in Burma, and they say to their kids, hey, we're not going to the movie this weekend because we've got to send our $35 to World Vision for that young girl that we sponsor in Burma. That's my hero. My hero is the young man or woman who's out there protecting our freedom. That's my hero. My hero is the single mother with 2 kids who's been serving at the Lord's Diner last night to take care of people more in need than... Oh. So what about you? What are you doing for your community? Do you have any idea how lucky you are? I wasted 50 years of my life when I went through this ego trip, when I was more concerned about Jack DeBoer than I was about the world around me. Do you have any idea how lucky we are? We've got enough to eat. We've got health care, real opportunity, longevity, access to sewer and water, and we're free. And that puts us in the 0.00001% of all the people who ever lived. And don't treat that lightly. Somebody said if we took the world's 7 billion people and we put them all into one town and shrunk it to 100 people, what would it look like? Well, here, 60 would be Asians, 12 would be Europeans, 15 would be from the Western Hemisphere, 13 would be Africans, 50 would be male, 50 would be female, 87% would be heterosexual, 13% would be homosexual, 20 would be white, 80 would be non-white, 33 would be Christians, 67 would be non-Christians, 20 would own 90% of the wealth, 25 would live in substandard housing, 17 would be unable to read, 13 would suffer from malnutrition, 2 would have a college education, 2 would own a computer. Wow. You guys and gals are so lucky. You're smart, you're charged, you've got opportunity, you've had families that supported you to get you here. And do you know, if you enjoy reasonable health and you build on it, if you prepare for life and its challenges through education, if you practice honesty, if you treat other people the way you would like to be treated yourself and invest in personal relationships, you are guaranteed a great living enhanced by the fact that you are all entrepreneurs. God made you an entrepreneur, and don't you forget it. And don't mistreat it. And be careful with it, or it'll get you in trouble. But let it out. And let it get out there and make it happen for you and the people around you, and risk only money. God bless.